welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo. This is a Senior Citizens Forum sponsored by Benefits for You Too Insurance Services, where we specialize in Medicare supplemental plans, Medicare Advantage plans, and prescription drug plans. We also do health insurance. Today on the Senior Citizens Forum, and oh, by the way, I'm Janice Wood. We're having a special show today with my longtime friend, Debbie Feldman. We've known each other for a long, long time.
We go back a couple years.
A few years. Okay.
Million years. Yeah. Back in the covered wagon days.
Yes. We remember when each of our children were
babies.
Knee-high. Okay. And Debbie is, I call her real estate guru extraordinaire.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, been in the business for over 30 years.
Yes, she's been through all the ups and the downs of real estate. But we're not here to talk about Medicare or real estate today.
We're talking about cooking.
We're going to talk about cooking because this is the time of the year where there's like between, I want to say, after Labor Day to January 1st, there's something like 30 holidays.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
trust me, my body is saying,
yeah,
no more.
It's 30 holidays, different cultural holidays, different religious holidays, depending upon where you're at. And sometimes those holidays can be lonely.
Yes.
And so we know that Americans have a passion for comfort food.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about some ideas of what you can do so you're not so lonely on some of these holidays.
Right.
And at the same time, Debbie, with her passion of not only real estate, but cooking is a passion that she has. And then at the end of the show, we're going to talk about her show that she and a friend of hers, who I happen to know, also, are going to have their own cooking show.
Yes, and you can check us out on YouTube.
Yeah. So you can check us out. I have even seen them on Facebook, but I won't tell.
Okay.
Okay.
So all the recipes will be at the end, and then I'll get these to Janice, and then you can copy them. If you have any questions, you can put my number in, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
So we're going to have her information for real estate because she's really good at what she does.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
And we're going to have her information about her and her cooking show with Norma. Okay?
Yes.
We'll have all that information along with these delicious, easy recipes that you can use during the holidays. And as we're talking, we're going to give you ideas on what you can do.
Or after. You know what? We're always eating. So
we're always eating, yes.
And so let's start with dessert.
Of course you have to start with dessert because desserts sometimes take time to prepare and to sit for a while before
or it has to
all those wonderful flavors blend in.
Right, or it just needs to get cold. So this you can do in a day. If let's say you're having a dinner with some friends tonight, you could actually do this. This is creme brulee for two. So it's super easy. The prep time's about 10 minutes or less. The cooking time's about 50 minutes. And then once it comes out of your oven, then it needs to sit in your refrigerator for a good at least 4 to 5 hours longer. If you can make this a day ahead of time, I always like to be prepared. So a little bit of my background, my parents had a deli in Long Beach, Friedman's Deli, for 25 years. And I never cooked. I just watched my parents. And my dad was the main, well, he was a chef. He cured his own beef. He cut his own lox. I didn't know what it was as a kid to go to the store and buy things because whenever we always bought in bulk. And usually what I needed at home, I would call the store and I'd say, Dad, we need butter, we need milk, we need eggs, and he'd just bring it home. And that was my first, I guess what they do where you just call and say what you need. They're doing that
every night.
He did, and sometimes he did, but my mom was an amazing baker, which I sort of dabbled in a little bit now. But, I always say cooking should be fun. And if you don't like something that's in some of the ingredients, don't use it. You can always get around it. If you don't eat meat, then you can maybe use like plant-based food or I don't know how all that works because I don't do that. But, you know, you can dabble in what works best for you. And there's no right or wrong. It may change the flavor a little bit or the texture of certain things. And sometimes, like in this, you have to use heavy whipping cream. If you use a substitute, it's not going to work because this is a custard that you're making. So let's dig in.
Okay, let's start. Let's see how this custard comes together.
Okay, so what we have are 3 eggs, a cup of milk, a quarter cup of sugar, a whisk, because you don't want to add a lot of air to it. You don't want to make it fluffy. You want to make it kind of so it's flat.
You want to do this by hand instead of
you don't want to use an electric mixer. So we're going to be in, you'll see when I have the stuff in here, then I'm going to mix like this. I'm not whipping it. And then you can use vanilla, or I like to use vanilla bean. And just a tip, because vanilla beans sometimes are expensive. I get mine at Costco. Sometimes they have them in a jar and they're less expensive than at like a Ralph's or a Vons or wherever. But that all being said, if they get hard, you put it in warm water or boiling water and let it sit. So this was part of the piece that I had, and it got really hard, so I warmed it up, and it's really, you can feel it. Just feel it.
I feel it.
Yeah, it's
and
really.
This is a vanilla.
It's vanilla, and then we're going to open it up. See, because you can get vanilla beans on your hands, and that's what you want to go in there. So let's get started.
Vanilla. Yeah.
So we're using 3 eggs, and they need to be at room temperature. So I'm just going to put we need the yolks. So I put my egg in here.
I have a funny story for you in the yolk.
Okay.
I remember years ago, my oldest son, I told him he had to separate the eggs to make a sponge cake. And he said, well, why do I have to separate them and put them back together?
I love that.
So you didn't separate them, and of course you didn't get the height.
Right. One time I made a sponge cake, and I said, well, if I have 9 eggs, what's the difference of a few more? Well, the cake came out really high, and then it dropped. And then I had to throw it out and start over.
Separating of the eggs is really important.
It is important.
It's very important.
Yeah. So there you go.
Even though you have to put them back together.
Right. So this is just for your custard. And whoop. There we go. And here we go. Okay. So there's the 3 eggs. I always like to keep a wet rag because your hands get sticky or gooey or whatever. Then we're going to add 1 cup of the heavy whipping cream.
So it has to be the heavy whipping cream.
Whipping cream. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
It's not, okay.
And then you add, this is 1/4 a cup of sugar. Oops, this is it's 1/4 a cup of sugar. And then I don't know if you can see, I'm going to move this aside. So this is vanilla bean. And what you do is you cut it like so.
Oh,
kind of a slit down the middle. And then it opens up. Well, it's supposed to open up. Let me see if I can cut this a little deeper. There we go. And see the little black things that come out? It's really hard to see.
I've never seen this before.
So you can see how that paste, you can even press it out like that. That's the vanilla bean, and then you're going to put that in there. But what I want to do is open this up so I can, that's not cooperating. There we go. And I'm going to pull it apart like so.
Now, I have never seen somebody use vanilla bean. I've always taken the vanilla extract, but this is probably so much better.
Yeah, well, it's the richness of the vanilla that you get. And then you just take a knife like here in the beans, and you just scrape them like so.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that. And then we put it into the side here.
So what's the difference between this and vanilla extract?
Well, this is pure because this is the actual bean. And so you just, I like the vanilla bean. Like sometimes you see vanilla ice cream and then you see vanilla bean ice cream. So these are the vanilla beans.
Okay. It almost looks like a really dark chocolate.
It does. And see, when we blend it all, and actually what I should have done, my first step, because I'm trying to get this all done at once, you beat the eggs first, but I didn't. And sometimes we get busy or we forget. You know what? It all works together.
Works together.
And as you can see,
It changed colors.
it's a nice custard.
Okay.
So you beat it all together. And this makes a wonderful, and you see I'm pressing down with the whisk. I don't want a lot of air. I don't want a lot of bubbles. You will get some, but not a lot. And just because it's easier, I'm going to pour this back into my measuring cup, like so. That's done.
Okay.
And then we pour it into our ramekins. Let me grab one more ramekin. I thought I
So
had
this
two.
is a little custard cup that she's using. Okay.
I have different ramekins. I've gotten these like at Ralph's. You can go to Home Goods. They're not real expensive, but they make it really pretty. So what we do is you pour this in, like so, up to the top. And I have a little bit left, so I'm going to use this, and I'm going to pour the rest in there.
Okay.
So instead of 2, you have 3. So don't tell anybody, you eat the third one yourself. So then what we do is and you see how easy and how quick this is? So I just use tap water, and you want to bake it in a dish.
So it's just as hot water. It's not boiling water.
It's not,
just
you can use regular, because it's going to get warm in the oven. So the idea of baking it in this is that it cooks evenly and it stays at a consistent temperature all around the custard. So what we're going to do is put this into the oven. The oven's already been set at 350, and this will cook for 50 minutes.
Okay.
So while that's cooking, we're going to cut to our next segment. So I'm going to put this in, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. And then we put it in the refrigerator, and it gets cold, and then I'll show you what we do once it's cold. So now it's going into the oven for 50 minutes.
This looks absolutely beautiful.
Isn't it?
This has been.
If you can see this.
This is baked. Okay.
So-
Been in the refrigerator.
For about 5 hours
About 5
or more. If it's 24 hours, it's better. And it's cool, so that's what you want. And actually this one, it's not as full, but you can see the little vanilla beans that just add such wonderful flavor. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to put the icing on the cake, so to speak.
Okay.
The sugar, which is the best part. So you take a little bit of sugar, and I put it in just like that. And then you swirl it around so it gets all over the creme brulee. And there's a lot in here, so now I'm going to dump it into the next one because we're going to make our sugar coating.
So it's just a very thin layer of sugar.
It's almost like cracked glass at the top.
It looks like it.
Yeah. And then this one needs a little bit here. And so
It's interesting because I'm watching it being absorbed into the custard.
yeah, it's really good.
It looks beautiful.
And you see it's just
this.
sort of sitting in there, so it is like
Yeah.
taking a little bit. I'm going to add just a little more just to make it really good. So most of you probably don't have a cooking torch because I cook a lot and I make things and I use my cooking torch to, especially for the creme brulees. Just put a little bit more on. And this is about a fourth, so there's 3 of them. So it's like a couple teaspoons. You can make it more or less, however much sugar you want. And if it's too much sugar, you can just put a little bit back.
Okay.
So that's what
But
I'm
you
going to
can
do.
see the custard absorbing it.
Yes, yes. Okay. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to do one with a torch, and I'm going to broil one because we all have, I think most of you have a broiler, but you have to be very careful because it's like only a few minutes and you're going to to broil it so it gets that real bubbly, hard, cracked topping of the, because you're going to melt the sugar. And if sometimes it burns a little bit, it's okay. So anyway, I'm going to put this in here, and then I'm going to do these two. And by the time I do that, then this should be done. So no more, got to watch it very closely. So a minute, and then watch it again. So I'll be checking back and forth. So putting it in my toaster oven.
Okay.
And then I'm going to use my torch. That's kind of fun. And I don't know if you can see.
Oh, you can see the sugar melting.
And it smells so good.
And turning brown. How beautiful.
So this goes pretty quick. And it looks like this.
Look how.
Oh, smoke. And it smells good.
Smells great. There's bubbling sugar.
So this is pretty quick. And you want to make sure you get all of it.
And if you know someone that cooks a lot with desserts who wants to make this, what a great present this would be.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is ideal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to chuck the brulee that's in the broiler.
See oh, it's hot.
See, it's going to take another few more minutes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So this is just starting.
Those are very hot.
So this should be done, this is showing about 2 more minutes, so probably about 4 minutes. But this is the way it looks. Then what I would do is take this and put it back in your refrigerator. You can serve it where the sugar is hard. Let me show you on here. You hear that cracking? That means that that part is done. So, but I would put it back in the fridge until you're ready, and then we'll move on to our next segment. But let me just check the one in the broiler real quick.
So when it sits in the refrigerator, all these flavors are going to blend together.
This is going to take a few more minutes. So again, you just have to watch it very, very carefully, and then it's done, and we're ready to move on to the next segment. And that one will be done in a few minutes, but it will look like this, and I'll show you that in 1 second.
Yeah.
So here it is from the broiler. And again, it took a little bit longer, and it depends, like I'm using an oven broiler, a toaster oven broiler opposed to my regular oven broiler. But this is the way it should look. And then you put it in the fridge and you're ready to go. So now let's move on to our next segment of our lasagna soup. It's so delicious. And the plus about lasagna soup, it's a soup, but it's a full meal. It's sort of like having lasagna, and it's absolutely delicious. But what you can do is, when you have your leftovers, put it in. I use glass jars for a lot of storing things in my freezer, and then you can have it for another meal a month from now, 2 weeks from now, next week. So when you make it, you've got more to have later.
Okay. Now we're going to see how to make lasagna soup, which I'm really excited about.
And it's so easy.
It is easy.
If it's not easy, I'm not doing it. So
yeah, it's just like any type of recipe. There's always a little bit of prep that goes along with it. Okay, but the results are always good.
Yes.
And especially if you're going to have 2 or 3 people, or maybe even 4, you can always invite that neighbor you never know, or that co-worker, or someone you know from a senior center that doesn't have a place to go, to come join you.
Right.
So things are not quite as lonely.
Right.
Okay.
And there's always, maybe, like for us personally, I have a neighbor next door. Unfortunately, his wife passed. My neighbor across the street, her husband passed. So we've invited them to our house just to share in a meal, so they're not eating by themselves. And just, or if you're in a Maj group or a bridge club or something, if you're doing activities with your women or men friends, you can make this and have it for lunch. You don't always have to do dinner, or it's just nice to have the company. Or the other thing, I think Janice had mentioned, because we've come out of this Zoom, and I think some of us are just like, I don't want to do any more Zoom. But we do. You can share the meal with the person. You can make it together. They make it at their house. You make it at your house. I have a nephew who did that for a date, and they made the dinner, and they were on Zoom, and they shared the meal. They each made their things, and they sat and they had a lovely dinner like they were really there, only they were each in their own homes, because of the pandemic, and they couldn't get together. But people can be very creative, and just I think it's nice to have company.
It is, because I know I've had some family festival occasions, and members from all over the United States or even in different countries will sometimes get together. The time zones don't always work, but it's better than not being together.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, and we sit there and we'll do whatever it is. At least we're together. It may not be as good as like right now I'm touching my friend.
Yes.
But it's better than not being together.
Absolutely.
And so if you have Zoom or you have FaceTime or you have some other, so many other different platforms out there. Google has a platform. I mean,
for everybody.
I know I've been on many different platforms. Try using them so you're not alone, okay? So there is a way to break that up.
Yeah, or a family member or somebody you haven't seen in a while.
Right.
I'm sure they'd love to hear from you.
They'd love to hear. So let's see how
let's
start
get started.
With this soup.
Okay, so I've taken this recipe and I've really cut it in half. So it called for a whole onion. I've chopped up a half an onion, and it doesn't have to be chopped up super fine, and I'm putting it in my pan. And the nice thing, this is a one-pan deal. So, and then...
That's fun, because when you think about an actual casserole lasagna.
Oh, you're right, and you're making
layering,
and doing.
This is everything in one. How cool!
Yeah. So I always switch up recipes. I make it work for me. So the recipe called for making the ground beef. I'm using turkey, and so I do my onions first, and then I like the meat to absorb the flavor of the onions. It also calls for garlic. So I don't know if you know, probably do. Some people have, I do too. It's a garlic press, but this is super easy. You make sure the blade is out from you, and then you just chop it. So I'm going to put in 3 cloves of garlic, and you smash it like so. Get your aggressions out.
I do that. I also do that to remove the peel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just going to chop this up, not super fine, but it will blend in. And if you're allergic to garlic, if you don't like onions, then don't use it. There's no, you can change up the recipe for your flavors. So here we go. We're going to put that in. So there is a local olive oil and balsamic place near us called Antica. They're on Los Alamitos Boulevard. I'm in the city of Los Alamitos, and it's easy to reach from Long Beach, Lakewood, Cypress, Garden Grove. They have some of the best olive oil around.
Okay, so if you don't have an olive oil in your location, because we're seeing all over the United States, okay, and even in other countries, so look for olive oil. You can find it in the in your grocery store in the olive oil section. But if you're lucky enough to have an olive oil store, these are absolutely delicious.
Yes. So this is a Tuscan herbed olive oil. You can you smell the olive oil, but it's got a nice aroma. So it's a couple teaspoons, and I'm going to put this in like so, and then I'm going to put it on to the stove, and we're going to saute the onions just so that they come lightly brown. So I'm going to get that started.
Okay. And the other thing with olive oil, it's good for you.
Yes.
It's very healthy for you, especially if you're watching different dietary things. Olive oil is very healthy.
Right. And there's so many flavors. So they also make a butter olive oil. Oh my God, because I love butter. You can put it on bread. You can put it on popcorn. You can vegetables. It has a buttery flavor without all the extra fat and things that are so good for you. So as this will take a few seconds to cook, and once that's done, then we're going to add our meat. So I'll get this prepared as we're waiting for the onions to start cooking.
You have a sweet Italian meat there?
So I did a sweet Italian. So the difference, so if you like spicy, You can do a mild, or you can do like a heavier on the spice meat. And then I like, if you want to use beef, use beef. I like to use turkey because turkey takes on the flavor of whatever you're making. And so I use that.
Again, if you have some dietary needs, usually some form of turkey meat is really good for you for a substitute for that beef. Now, what happens if I would say I'm a vegetarian and I wanted to use more vegetarian vegetables in here?
You could do total vegetables and the noodles if you didn't want to do that.
Right.
Or I'm not a vegetarian. I've never had the plant-based meat. I know people like that. Have you tried that?
I've tried the plant-based meat, but health-wise, this is better for you than the plant-based. Okay.
So I'm using the real deal. I don't like the fake stuff.
I've been a vegan.
Okay.
So I know what's healthy and not.
Right. And I don't know if you could use, what's that other stuff? Not soy. It's white.
I know, the tofu.
Tofu.
The tofu.
I wonder if you could use tofu.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's another idea. Let me check the.
Yeah. Tofu. Yeah. But as far as your meats are concerned, the plant-based are really good. They taste good. But if you have health issues, I would recommend going to the turkey. So I see, Debbie, you have sauces already.
Yes, so you can.
Experience with.
Yes, so you can make your own spaghetti sauce. But before I get into that, I want to show you what the onions look like and the garlic. So, and you can smell it.
Oh,
It smells
they look
so
beautiful.
good. And so to this, we're going to add our meats. So just give me a second. And all you do, you just crumble them up. So I don't know, here's the turkey. So I'm going to just take it and just take little chunks and put it in here like so.
Oh, it smells wonderful.
I know. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And then while this is cooking, I'm going to talk to you about the sauce and what you add to make this the soup.
So I started to say you can make your own sauce if you're interested in making your own sauce. But I see Debbie has here some, it says homemade rails, and she has crushed peeled tomatoes.
Yeah, to give it more of that chunkier flavor.
Okay.
So this is going to cook, and while that's cooking, I'll talk to you about, just takes a couple seconds to blend in, and then I will show you.
All right.
Again, my handy dandy. So I actually have a lasagna recipe from a friend of mine who used to live downstairs from us in my first apartment before I was even married. It's from his grandma. But this sauce, I have to tell you, the Rose, R-A-O-S, it's probably some of the best marinara I've ever had. It's and when you can't do it yourself, I think back in the day, because I used to cook everything when the kids were little. I would make every meal, and now we have Costco, and the food is so good. Or some of our local stores that's pre-made. All you have to do is warm it. It's not like the old frozen dinners and things that we used to go, ugh, that was terrible. This is all so good, and it's fresh, and it's packed up, and it's ready to go. And if you're working and you don't have time, it's really, really good. Do you like tomato sauce?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, even though this is cold, I want you just to sample a little bit.
Oh.
Go ahead and sample.
I'm sitting here going, oh, this smells so wonderful. Yay. Let's taste a tiny bit.
Isn't that good?
That is very good.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we're going to add this, and then I use like the crushed tomatoes to the sauce. And again, you put in approximately, how much of the tomato sauce? They say, so I've cut this in half, about 12 ounces, so about half the jar, and then we're going to add a can of this. And then I make my own chicken soup, but for the purposes of this show, I bought the low sodium chicken broth. So that's because soup has to have broth. If you're a vegetarian, you can get the vegetable broth. If you're doing all vegetables, that will work too. So this will go in just a second. And then I've cut up, if you can see, I have fresh parsley and I have a basil plant that I'm growing or trying to keep growing.
Oh, I wish you guys could smell how fresh everything is.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
really
good.
adds to it. And then a little bit of oregano. And if you want to add, like this recipe, I'm not a spinach fan, but you can put spinach into your lasagna soup. If there's a special vegetable or something, just make sure it cooks enough so that it is soft like you would in a lasagna casserole. So here we have the meat, the onions, the garlic, and it's all mixed together. So I'm going to go back to the stove. I'm going to put in our other 2 ingredients of the crushed tomatoes and the sauce and then our seasoning and let that cook for another moment and then add the soup. Actually, I can add the soup right now.
Yeah.
So this would be about 2.5 cups of the chicken broth.
So it's the whole container that you're putting in.
Well, I've used half of the container, but because I did cut the recipe in half. So here's that, and now let me add. I'm going to add our basil, and I like fresh. You can use in a jar if you'd like.
You want me to hand this to you? Oh.
Okay. Then I'm going to add a little bit of oregano. And again, I don't measure, but it's about a teaspoon or so. And you mix it all together. And this is what it looks like with the soup and everything in there.
Okay.
And if you wanted to eat it this way, I guess you could too.
Yeah.
So you could do variations of the lasagna soup, but it's the sauce. So you can hand me the sauce. So I'm going to use about half a jar.
About half a jar.
And the whole thing of this is going in. And like I said, you'll have extra, just freeze it. And then you'll have it, on a cold day. You don't want to make all this stuff, or you come home from wherever you are and you want to just have something warm and homemade.
Can you freeze this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so yeah.
So this will simmer for a few minutes. And actually, I would let it cook for a good hour. Just really so all the juices, everything goes into it. So in the meantime, we're going to make our sauce that goes into the lasagna. So you know how when you have your noodles, you put your sauce, you do the noodles, and then you do the cheeses. So now we're going to do the cheeses. So I'm using, you can use regular ricotta, or this is low-fat ricotta. This is some Parmesan cheese. We make our mixture. Again, about a half a cup. And this is about a half a cup of the,
It's cheese.
It's
Can't
cheese.
have too much.
Exactly. So we're just going to mix it all together. And so once you've made your soup, your main part of your soup, and it's cooked and ready to go, you can freeze that. This last part gets done when you, before you serve it, because you're going to put a dollop of this in with your cooked noodles. So I've previously cooked the noodles, and what you do is I'll show you. You take the lasagna noodles like this. You can use other noodles if you want, but I like, because it's lasagna soup, I want lasagna noodles. So I just break it in like little pieces like that, and then you cook it, and then you'll put that into your bowl with your sauce, and I'll show you how to mix it all together, and it's absolutely delicious. So
it sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see this come together.
Yes. So in here, if you have some fresh basil, you can put more basil in, or you can put in other seasoning. Like I have Italian seasonings, so I like to use that.
I love Italian seasoning.
And we can mix it into this, and that will add to the flavor. About a teaspoon.
Yeah.
And you just mix it all
You
together.
do what I do. I just
Yeah, I'm not a
put it in.
measuring. The nice thing about when you cook is when you're cooking, you can add a little extra, do a little less. When you're baking, it's more of a science, you know. So that's why it has to be precise. But there are some chefs that say it has to be exactly this, and you know that's your thing. Then be exact. It's okay. I won't come after you and say you're doing it wrong.
no.
Because this is the way I do it.
And to me, foods is what you enjoy, what you like to
Absolutely.
taste.
That's the fun thing I think about cooking. It's like we've been cooking for years, and
Yeah.
we were talking to Lauren about it, who's our amazing photographer or filmer.
Well, she's our
Everything girl.
she's our camera person.
She's our everything person.
She's our director.
She's the best.
She's
And-
my editor.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, we talk about our fears. Don't be afraid if you like, oh my God, I can't do this. Or, you know, you hear something that's hard, like, oh, the creme brulee, I could never do. It's a simple process. Just read it and you're going, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
If you can read, you can cook. That's what I always tell my kids. If you can read, you can cook. You just follow the directions. And if you don't like something, you can't have something, adapt it to what you can do. You can buy, like if you're gluten-free, you can buy gluten-free noodles. If you don't want the noodles, then don't put them in. So,
I mean, you can use other forms of pasta put in there.
right.
In a soup. I mean, because there's so many different types of
Right.
pastas. But
So-
this is fun because it's just another way to eat soup.
Right. So all our ingredients are cooking, and I will show you, I think let me check and see if our soup is done. We'll be right back.
Everybody should be able to see this. It's
I don't know if you can see it
I
on
don't know
the-
if you can see it.
Can you see it, Lauren?
Looks delicious.
So at this point, if you're not going to have it right away, take this, let it cool, and put it into a jar and freeze it. Or a jar and put it in your refrigerator. So what we do, sort of like a lasagna, you put this in,
Okay.
like so. And then remember I said I already cooked the noodles. So we
Okay.
put the noodles in. So you can
Okay.
kind of lasagna noodles so they're ready to go.
Yum.
That's so good. And just kind of layer. And then,
And now, the best parts to come.
yes.
Yes.
So we're going to add just a little bit more. So we have lasagna noodles. And then I'm going to add a little bit more sauce. And you see that it's soupy. But now what we're going to do is we're going to add the ricotta cheese. So you just take a scoop of this, like so, and then you put it in. And when you mix it, you leave it on the top like that. But when you mix it, you'll see that the consistency gets sort of milky and creamy, just like lasagna.
My mouth is watering.
See,
What-
so it gets a little more soupy.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, we just add a touch of the Parmesan cheese on the top, and you are ready to go. I'm going to move this out of your way.
So you got, if you like different types of cheeses and stuff that go with this, like a Romano cheese or any of it
See
would work.
how lovely this is?
That looks absolutely delicious.
And then it's like you have all this stuff ready to go. So if you're setting up or doing some other things, you can have this done in advance. And then this is the last thing. It takes seconds to put this together. And then you have your lasagna soup. I know that you want to taste.
I absolutely want to
Okay,
taste.
there you go.
And can we get a spoon for our our director over
Absolutely, absolutely.
here. Oh,
It's hot.
it looks hot.
It's hot.
I'm
It's hot.
trying to get a little bit of the meat, a little bit of
I just
everything.
don't want you to burn your tongue.
Well, I'm going to blow it. Very good.
Good.
Okay. You can add mushrooms to this, bell peppers.
So much. So much. So speaking of mushrooms, I'm making an easy mushroom salad for us, and I'll be right back.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo, and this is Senior Citizens Forum.
Here at Benefits for You Too Insurance Services, we believe knowledge is power when it comes to selecting the correct healthcare and Medicare insurance. Please contact us at healthcareoptions@benefitsforyou2.com or call us at 310-245-0332.
Welcome back to WGSN-DB Going Solo. This is the Senior Citizens Forum, and I'm here with my friend, longtime friend, Debbie Feldman, and we have been making a holiday meal that's a little bit different. We started out with creme brulee.
Which we'll taste at the end.
We went to a delicious lasagna soup, and I can tell you it was delicious. It tasted wonderful.
Thank you.
And now we're going to make that salad to finish off that meal.
Yes.
So she has some really interesting balsamic vinegars over here, which looks absolutely amazing. Anxious to see how she's going to put this together with some very basic things that we're all familiar with.
So sometimes we're sick of lettuce. We always have lettuce. So you can add lettuce to this if you want, but I used portobello mushrooms chopped up. So all you do is you take the portobello and you just make sure that it's all the dirt or if there's anything on it, and then you just chop it up like so. And I've done the other ones already.
Okay.
Then we add celery. So the celery gives us a nice crunch. So a couple stalks, you just chop them, and sometimes you can do them a little finer than this because it's a little big. So I'll just break a few of these up. Then for a little bit of sweetness, now I took a half an apple and I chopped it. It doesn't have to be perfectly chopped, but again, it'll add some sweetness to the salad.
And what kind of apple did you use? There's so many
I
different
used
types
a
of
Honey
apple.
Crisp. I think Honey Crisp or the Golden Delicious. They're all good.
Okay.
And you just pile it in. And then I'm going to use a pomegranate because they're in season now. It's really easy just to, when you cut it, you just take the little seeds out. It adds such a nice burst of color, and it's a nice flavor to the salad. And they get a little messy, so do it over the bowl that you're serving in or mixing in, as the case may be.
Definitely is adding color to this.
Yeah. And then, last but not least, we're going to add some flavors. As I mentioned, if there's a olive oil place near you that you like to use, I mean, you can use regular olive oil at your store, but if you can get the flavored ones, it just adds such a burst of flavor. So this is the Tuscan herb that we used in the lasagna. I'm not going to, well, I'll put a little drop of this in. Actually, here's just a little drizzle because we're going to mix olive oils. And I'm not measuring. This is a Sicilian lemon white balsamic. Adds that flavor. And then this is a lemon olive oil. Mix that in. This one's a cranberry white balsamic. And this is, I love blood orange. Blood orange olive oil is so good, and it adds such a wonderful flavor. So to that, we're just going to add, because you never can have enough cheese.
Of course.
Sprinkle a little cheese, and your salad is ready. So let me mix it up. And see how pretty it is?
Oh, it's very pretty.
So you can put everything together beforehand. and add a little bit of seasoning. Let me grab it.
And as she said, if you wanted to add a lettuce to it,
Yeah,
that's up to you.
You can certainly do that. Another favorite seasoning is porterhouse seasoning. I use it on everything. Guacamole, eggs, fish, chicken, tomatoes, whatever. Myself, no.
Okay.
A sprinkle of that. And all the flavors will pop. And if you're doing this, you could put all the ingredients except for the olive oils on there because you don't want it to get soggy. I'll give you a little bit and you can try it.
Goodness. And this all has healthy stuff in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Pomegranates are good for you. All of this is good for you.
There's just a nice sweetness to it. It's a very refreshing salad, right?
Right. Especially after eating a heavier soup.
Right. Or to have, so you can serve this first and then do your soup.
Delicious.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so we'll be back in a minute for our very last dish, and then I'll put it all on a plate and show you how it all looks.
Oh.
So now this is our last dish to go with the lasagna soup. And you can, if it's too much, you don't have to use it. But simple recipe that maybe you can use for another time. I love asparagus. I think a lot of people do. And so what I do is I take an onion and I just slice it like so. I'm only going to use like a half an onion. Okay, and then I cut it in half. And then I'm going to break it up like this and put it into a Pyrex cooking dish. I had a really unique experience a year ago. We went to the Pyrex, we went to Corning where they make Pyrex and all these things and how these things came about. And when they talk about necessity is the mother of invention, well, that's how these things came about because one of the scientists there, they used these glasses for medicines and things, and his wife needed to make a baking dish. And so he took one of the medicine jars, cut it, and she used it to cook because every time she would bake with her glass stuff, it would shatter. This didn't, and hence Pyrex was invented and Corning ware and all that. So now I'm going to I'm going to use I'm going to use butter olive oil. So let me put this one back and get the butter. As I said, I've got probably every single one of the olive oils that they have. So this is from Antica in Los Alamitos, but if you have somewhere close by, you can probably call them, look them up. It's Antica, and they're in Los Alamitos, California, and they ship incredible olive oil. So I'm going to pour this in like so, about that much. Okay. So which is about 1/4 of a cup, I think. What's it show on here? A little bit like a half. And then I'm going to cook it for 5 minutes in the microwave so that it becomes soft. So I'll be right back.
Asparagus, that's one of my favorites.
Okay. It's so, this is the easiest. It's like 5 minutes and maybe 8 minutes to cook and you're done. So what I did earlier is I cut the onion and then I put it in olive oil and I baked it in the microwave for like 5 minutes. And then because there's not that many of us, so I cut off the ends of the asparagus. I always laugh because my daughter Elena loves the ends and not the tips. That's what we normally eat. So then you just pour this on like so.
Yum.
You can't get any easier than this. Then I used to use pine nuts, but pine nuts have become so expensive.
They are.
So this is chopped up pecans.
Okay.
Put that on top. Who doesn't like pecans? You can use pistachios. You can use any kind of nut you want.
Okay.
And then you bake this for like 5 minutes in your oven, and then you're ready to go. So let me put this in, and we'll be right back, and we'll have every dish ready to go, and we can do our little taste testing.
Okay. We're going to have this meal together real
Yes,
soon.
yes.
Yeah. Debbie, this looks absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. And
okay, look at the creme brulee, the salad,
the lasagna soup, and then you can see the asparagus, and it's delicious.
It's delicious. It's very simple to make. You can make it over a couple of days. You can make it all the same day. But this is to help you have a nice holiday meal to make you not feel so lonely.
Absolutely.
And please, like we talked about earlier, invite a friend over.
Yeah.
Zoom, use all the modern technology to stay in touch with people so you're not at home alone just watching a marathon of movies.
Right.
Okay?
The other thing, too, is don't forget to set a nice table. I always like to use a cotton or a linen or whatever, a cloth napkin. Don't use a paper towel. My kids keep using paper towels and it makes me crazy. So feel like you're going to a nice restaurant. Treat yourself well.
Right. And of course, you can have your glass of water.
Or wine.
Or definitely wine. And what would you recommend as a wine for this?
I would use a red wine. If you don't like red wine, use white wine. If you don't like regular wines, I have a friend who likes her Gewürztraminer or the sweet wines. Yeah. Use a sweet. Drink what you like.
Whatever you like. And food should always fit your palate and what you like to eat.
If you can't eat something, you don't like something, don't put it in there.
This has been so much fun, Debbie.
Yes, it has been.
It's great doing this. It's a lot of work. Thank you so much for doing this for us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And I hope we have you back to do some other type of show
sometime. Yes, I would love to do it.
Future.
And don't forget my cooking show. It's called What's Cookin, COOKIN, with Norma and Deb. And we're on YouTube trying to get to some other venues. So check us out. It's super easy. And we'd like to make easy recipes like this. And at the end, we'll get you all the recipes for today's meal.
Right. And we will definitely post how to get a hold of Debbie, how to get a hold of her for real estate. And over to my left, you can't see him, her partner in crime for real estate.
Rob.
I've known him a long time, too.
Yes.
Okay? We used to exercise together. All right?
And Lauren, thank you for filming and being our editor and director and everything else.
Thank you. And we'll see you soon.
And have a great holidays.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Yay.
Okay.